Thank you for joining us today. My name is Felicia Saraceno, and I'm the Director of Business Development here at the Arlington of Naples. Today on Live with a Purpose, we are going to talk about some long-term care strategies with Konrad Prus, and I think we're going to get some great information from him. So I'm going to turn it over to Konrad. He is our speaker of the day, and to tell us a little bit about himself. Thank you for joining us today, Konrad.
Thank you for that warm introduction, Felicia. I appreciate it. So here on the title screen, you can see his presentation is going to be an educational webinar about long-term care. And really quickly, this is just a disclosure that the presentation that we're giving here is that it's not associated with IRS or Social Security, and it's for educational purposes only. And here's a little bit about myself and my firm. First, you can see I'm the founder of our firm, and we're located just south of Coconut Point Mall, in front of the Gulf Bay and Bay Country Club, and that's the building there. It's called the Walden Center. We're in Suite 300, and from right to left is Victor. He's our youngest member and the newest member of our team, and he's a paraplanner and executive assistant. And just tremendous young man that helps us with all our digital presence and keeping our Facebook updated and all the paraplanning that we need. In the middle there, that's Clark. He's our Medicare expert. So anytime the clients have pieces of planning involving their Medicare, then Clark helps us up. And then on the left there, there's a picture of me and a little bit, about the activities that I enjoy doing. I'm an avid biker, and I like to ride my bicycle, typically around 40 to 50 miles on a weekend. And I'm also very passionate about Toastmasters, which is a local organization here. And thirdly, I really enjoy league volleyball. So that's being 6 foot tall kind of makes it pretty easy. And fourth, the most important colleague is Louis. He's my golden retriever, and he's a rescue. So he, I think we think he's a golden, maybe chow mix. I'm not quite sure, but he's 5 years old, and he always brings a smile whenever I'm in my home office. So whenever here we're going to be talking about long-term care, and just kind of a rough agenda of what the presentation is going to be about. First point is, what kind of impairment exists to justify long-term care, and what are the differences? Number two is, what is long-term care? Is it a condition? Is it an event? We'll be talking about that too. Number three are the two consequences of it, and a two-part plan to address it. Number four, we're going to be talking about a hypothetical example, Alan the carpenter, his situation, and kind of how the planning plays out. And fifth, finally, we'll discuss what are strategic solutions to address long-term care planning. So here you can see our goals for the day is to give you an insight into the consequences needing care over a period of years will have on those you love. And I will speak about the consequences that an extended care event will have on your retirement plan. And lastly, minimize that there, discuss choices for protecting protecting both your family and your finances should you need care. That's going to be really the kind of the fifth part of the presentation. So like I said, there's really two portions when it comes to long-term care, what affects it. You have the physical impairment and the cognitive impairment. So physical impairment really is a chronic medical condition that can be managed by medication or therapy. However, it cannot be cured by it. And it also compromises your ability to get through your daily functions. And you may have heard of activities of daily living, ADLs, and that's like bathing, eating, walking, getting dressed. Those kind of those kind of items are the ones that really kind of fall into the category of physical impairment. Cognitive impairment is a measurable decline in your intellect, making it difficult, if not even impossible, for you to safely interact with your environment. And in that instance, really, that's kind of venturing towards like a memory care unit. And in those scenarios, there is no need for physical impairment to be part of it as well to justify having custodial care. So this is really going towards the second bullet point that we talked about in the agenda. And so what is long-term care? Really, long-term care is not a condition. It is more of a life-changing event that could have devastating consequences to your spouse, your children, and your ability to keep your financial promises during retirement. And this is kind of going to the core of the presentation with what are the needs and what are the reasons to protect from the risks of long-term care. So for one, longevity, in other words, living a very long time, could be very well in your future. Now, living here in Florida, people typically live 2-3 years longer just because of the nice climate, being outdoors more, being more of an active culture. So planning for it is truly a necessity. And I think here we can agree that people can live a long life. And understanding that it is possible to live a long life and become frail and need care as a person ages, and willing to consider actions that could have serious consequences to a family unit and a person's retirement portfolio. So the statistics really are, if we're sitting in a room of 4 people, 3 people out of those 4 are going to need some kind of care for an extended period of time before they pass away. So what I'm suggesting is that not to assume that you are one of the 3, but to consider that is a possibility, and what are the consequences if you are indeed one of those 3 in those government statistics. So really, here are 2 sets of consequences that face your family. And they are the emotional and physical well-being of those you love, because the nature of extended care. So being in a situation where a family member would have to take care of their parent or another family member, those are the situations where long-term care really shines in protecting individuals. The second set of consequences is your ability to keep financial commitments to your retirement portfolio, making sure that you don't run out of money in retirement. In many cases, paying for retirement requires a reallocation of funds, and this is an immediate impact on your ability to keep financial promises. if the illness lasts for a long enough time, invariably this would lead to an invasion of the investments designed for retirement. And this could have a direct impact on your ability to secure financial viability for a surviving spouse or even a legacy for your loved ones. So here you see, my goal here in this presentation is really to educate what are the risks, not to suggest that you'll need this care, but to say that there are serious consequences for not paying attention to this care. So here, I think being proactive and planning how to protect your loved ones is a key. So really, a two objective plan exists. First is to allow you to remain in the community without risking emotional or physical well-being to those who will provide you care. So being able to utilize senior living facilities, being able to utilize at-home care, those are the key points of having a successful long-term care plan. And the second is to preserve your retirement plan and to include these 4 points below, which is supporting your financial obligations, so your costs that are your monthly costs, minimizing taxes, and ensuring the financial viability for your surviving spouse. That's also very key. And lastly, is to leverage the plan so you're maximizing the amount of dollars put forth towards a long-term care plan to get the most benefit for your buck. So here we're going to talk about Alan the carpenter and kind of what his scenario looked like and what his effect was whenever he was planning for long-term care. So first he thought, well, let's look at Medicare to pay for senior living facilities. And like you know, that it's not always the case, and relying on that can prove to be less than desirable effects. Likewise, the VA, but because of his asset and income, he was not able to qualify. And lastly would be Medicaid. However, because he didn't spin down correctly in the past 5 years, he wasn't able to qualify for that either because of the amount of assets that he had. So to qualify for the Medicaid, he realized that he had to give away his asset, and that'd be really counterproductive. And for his wife, he would qualify for Medicaid. He would lose his entire pension, so that would be another portion that would be less than desirable. And if you would do any kind of gift giving, that would create a substantial tax burden, which obviously he wants to avoid. And lastly, he finds out that, well, Medicaid is indeed not free. So in an effort to try to preserve his income, his assets, he took it upon himself to take care of his spouse. However, his health started to fail to the point where the children had no choice but to step in and help out dad and mom. And so in this hypothetical example, how do you see the mom's health and the relationship with the siblings being affected by this type of care? So you really can see that would definitely prove to be difficult on the kids, and it was definitely difficult on the family as a whole. So kind of to frame it all, how many of you believe that long-term care insurance will protect you if you need care? And the point to focus on here is that really it doesn't. Because what it does is it protects your family, protects the loved ones in your life, to provide a stream of income that allows others to provide care for you. And this allows you for your spouse to be taken care of as well, and their retirement needs. And it gives your children a second gift of not having to have an interruption to their lives. So it's kind of a chain reaction here. With the title here says sequence of results. By providing a stream of income that pays for care, your primary source of income generated by Social Security, pension, retirement, your portfolio does not need to be reallocated. And so your ability to support your lifestyle, which includes commitments to your family, commitments to your faith, those are also not interrupted. And lastly, you will not have to go into your portfolio because the cost of the long-term care would be accounted for. So naturally you kind of ask, okay, so what are the ways to, the strategies, kind of, this is the fifth bullet point, what are the strategies to pay for long-term care? And they fall into 5 key strategies. First is a traditional long-term care policy, very much so like car insurance or home insurance, where you pay a premium and then you get a benefit, and at a certain point that benefit goes away if the premium is no longer paid. Second is through a hybrid process by using life insurance as a chassis and allowing for, if the need would come up, to utilize the value within the policy to pay for long-term care. And some of the benefits of the second strategy are that even if long-term care isn't needed, those funds are not lost. They can be applied for a tax-free income on retirement or as a death benefit to heirs. Third is life insurance, particularly with a chronic care rider, and we'll delve more deeply into that. Fourth are VA benefits. And fifth is self-funding. So that would be going into a managed portfolio and using those funds by selling off bonds and equities to fund long-term care needs. So we'll take a look in detail on each of them. So traditional long-term care through traditional insurance it's the most known one. And like I mentioned, it really is the model of pay for the benefit for the year, and then once that year elapses, then you have the next year, you pay another premium, and you go year by year like that. And some policies are great because they include inflation riders that when you pay a premium for it, the benefit isn't constant. However, the benefit grows year to year following inflation, which is important to consider because although we've had in the past decade relatively low inflation, it is possible to have even higher inflation in the coming years. The one issue is that qualifying for these policies can be difficult because it will require underwriting, especially in later years. If a person's a smoker or if there's a major health condition, the cost can become very astronomical. And there in bullet point 3, you can see I'm listed often expensive because not only initially is the cost high, however, year after year, the cost can increase. And recently, Florida legislation allowed for a cap to the increase, but the cap is 22%. So that is dramatically a increase. So imagine 1 year you will be paying $100 or $1,000 for the care. The next year it would be $1,200, and then the year after that would be $2,400. So those kind of increases really are dramatic, and that really touches on the fourth bullet point, which is the likelihood of rate increases. However, with proper planning and proper analysis, often enough, this is still a great option for many cases, especially young individuals, healthy individuals. And we can lock in a rate that one will address for inflation, two would have modest prevention from rate increases, and so those are situations where those items truly shine. Second would be hybrid life insurance with long-term care. And these are great because another name for this is advanced living benefits. And what that means is, instead of when purchasing a policy, traditionally, purchasing a life policy, traditionally the payout was once a person passes away, then death benefit is paid out to the beneficiary. Well, insurance companies would find out that, well, many of our members weren't paying the premiums because they have needs for long-term care, and because of those needs, the policies were lapsing because they couldn't afford consistently paying the life insurance and paying for the long-term care. So instead of letting those policies lapse, companies began to offer these hybrid policies where a portion of the death benefit can be used during the life of the owner of the policy to pay for long-term care. And then so you can see the second bullet point. It's not the case that you can have your cake and eat it too. So once you take a piece away pay for long-term care, that piece will be deducted from the death benefit. However, this is kind of going back to a couple slides back, whenever I mentioned the leveraging concept. And the point is that always whenever you're planning for life insurance, the dollar put into the policy is multiplied for the death benefit. So whenever the policy pays for long-term care, you're really paying pennies on the dollar for that same amount of coverage. And like I was mentioning, those accelerated living benefits, that goes to bullet point 3. And really the third slide that I talked about, the cognitive and physical impairments, the activities of daily living, that's when these policies get triggered, with having at least 2 activities of daily living being affected, then these policies will come into force. However, the really great thing is, unlike the traditional policies where you pay a premium every month and for some kind of coverage, these policies, you retain the value within the chassis of the investment. And they also, even if there is no long-term care need, even if you live your entire life without any kind of need, that benefit would be paid out to the beneficiaries. So it's not lost, like in the first example. And to even build upon that benefit can also come back to the owner of the policy through tax-free income and really even improve the standing of a retirement portfolio instead of hurting it as in other events whenever you have self-funding for long-term care, which we'll take a look at in 3 slides. So VA benefits are another way to fund long-term care, and obviously that will require military service, and there are stringent requirements for what would qualify for what and who can qualify for VA benefits. It is administered by the VA. So unlike the private sector, that comes with its own difficulties. And the process itself, just for the application, can be months and months long process, and that can be very difficult and strenuous for the individual. And then even if you qualify for those benefits, it would behoove of the individual to consistently try to make sure that the benefit is received and being diligent with it. And lastly, would be to self-fund for long-term care. And in certain situations, that is a good solution. However, to really maximize the bang for your buck or maximize the benefit that you're receiving from whatever funds you hold, there are better solutions than self-funding. Because like I said earlier, really what the key strategy is to get pennies on the dollar for benefits. So spend 10 cents in cost, but have $1 worth of benefits. That's the ideal scenario. Whenever one dips into their retirement portfolio, that's really the reverse effect, because often enough, taking money out of the portfolio, you'll be faced with taxes and with reduction of dividend payouts. And the third bullet point going to is that this also will affect the type of legacy you can leave behind, but by not having such a strong portfolio. So really here, I would suggest is to ask yourself, successful people who love someone manage risk, but not because they think that they're going to pass away early during working years, but they manage it because of the consequences if that would happen. So likewise, even though we talked about the scenario of 4 people in a room and 3 of them needing long-term care, it's not because one expects that they will need long-term care, because we all are hopeful and optimistic, and we think, okay, we're not the ones that are going to need long-term care. Really, it's because they plan of the consequences if that would happen, and what would happen if long-term care was needed to the loved ones and to a retirement portfolio, kind of going back to the 2 parts of the plan, the 2 consequences, what both are affected. So if anyone now has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And Louis and I here are very thankful for everyone joining, and please stay safe and healthy.
Well, thank you so much. That was a lot of great information. I actually do have some questions for some of our folks that are on social media right now on Facebook Live. One of the questions is there a certain age range to begin searching for long-term care insurance?
That's a great question, Felicia. And the ideal scenario there is to begin planning as soon as possible, because with any kind of these type of policy, the longer we wait, the cost for the policy are exponential. So literally, the graph, it'll be like going up a mountain, a very, very steep mountain. That, goes. So the sooner that we can begin planning, better.
Great. So take, for instance, if someone was in their 40s or 50s, that's not too soon to start looking.
No, actually, those are scenarios, especially with the hybrid policies, where the cost of care is very minimal, but you're able to build a value in that vehicle, and that will ensure not only protection during retirement for long-term care risk, however, and longevity risk, but also addressing longevity risk, because if the funds aren't used for long-term care, they can be used for retirement needs.
Okay. Another question that came in is, how much does a typical hybrid policy start at?
So, great question, and really, it's a sliding scale. So, on average, for long-term care over the course of 4 or 5 years, it's not unlikely to need $60,000-$70,000 a year for all the costs. So being able to plan earlier for it is that kind of goes back to the first question too, is the sooner that you're able to plan for it, the more you're able to cover the cost later on. And that the kind of tricky part about that question too, the second question, is that there's different facilities and different costs each facility. So that kind of goes to what the individual wants, whether it's staying at home, whether it's a senior facility, whether it's a memory care facility. All those kind of have different costs. So the point is to holistically plan for it, and that way the price tag is not the thing to fixate it on. It's more of, what is your goal? Is your goal to be at home by yourself? Is your goal to be at a senior facility? And whichever the goal is, that's how the plan would go towards.
That's true. That's true. We do have a lot of folks that live in our healthcare side for assisted living, memory care, and even the skilled community that do utilize long-term care insurance. And it actually helps to offset the cost for the family. And each of those areas get different prices for them, so to say. So, you get a certain rate for assisted living, a certain rate for skilled, which is a little bit higher because the cost in there is higher. And then I've also seen some who get home care in the home as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we do work with those really well in the healthcare setting. So another person asked a question. We got good questions today. Do you help with the veteran, the VA application?
Yes, we do. Our office does help with that. And to find how to contact our office, it's very simple. It's you can just type into Google K Prus Advisory, and or you're welcome to contact Felicia. She has all our information as well. And for every participant that came to that attended, we offer a free complimentary session, about 45 minutes long, to kind of get a litmus test to see where you are, what are your goals, and what are the key steps to take to get long-term care protection.
That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that for our folks who are watching today. I have all our questions answered here. Would you like to give your information again if someone wanted to contact you one more time?
Sure. You're welcome to visit kprusadvisory.com. You know what, let me just scroll to the very front, and then you can see the spelling of it. So right here, kprusadvisory.com. And if you'd like to give our office a call, our phone number is 239-290-4888. That's 290-4888. And we'll be happy to schedule a time for us to have a video call very similar like this to talk about your particular situation, your goals.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Konrad. And yes, the world has changed to be more virtual than I think anyone has expected. I do several Zoom calls, sometimes a day. And it's important for us to try and keep connected as much as we can. But for folks who might feel uncomfortable seeing each other face to face, this is the next best step.
Right.
Thank you all for joining today. And thank you, Konrad, for presenting on this really important piece of information for your healthcare benefits, and trying to make sure you extend your funds. So that's very important. And for those who are watching, keep up to date with some of the events that we're going to be doing. You can always keep to date on our Facebook page, which is Oakton Place at the Arlington. We do start, next week's going to be July. Hard to believe that we've already made it there already. And we do have some great July educational classes and virtual tours happening. So next week we're going to be having a virtual tour of Physicians Regional's Older Adult ER and what that means and how they've created that. And then we have a caregiver, Sue Ryan, talking about how to make yourself a priority if you are caregiving for someone. And then I also have Mary Jo Zeller, who's going to be talking about my solution transitions for seniors. So we do have some really fun and interesting events coming up. And in the future, we'll have some more as well. If you're interested in finding out some information about the Arlington, you can always feel free to call us at 239-307-3000. And once again, my name is Felicia Saracino. I'm the Director of Business Development. And you can also look at us up on our website, which is the arlingtonnaples.org. And we have a YouTube channel as well. So thank you all again. And thank you again, Konrad, for presenting. I hope you have a wonderful day. And we will be on soon. Thank you.
Okay, bye now.